the Norwegian method.
I'm Gustav, 3 times world champion.
I'm Kristian, Olympic and 3-time world champion.
I'm Dr. David Lippman, a health and human performance specialist. And welcome to the Norwegian Method podcast.
The Norwegian Method. The Norwegian Method.
Welcome back to the Norwegian Method podcast. Joining me today, Kristian, Gustav, gents, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Long time no see.
Thank you.
I think it's 3 weeks since last time we chat.
It's been a while since I've seen Gustav, but we chat.
Yeah,
recently.
because we usually do the one who performs best at races, and it's been hard to beat Kristian. So yeah, it's been a long time, but now I'm back in the chair.
And am I going to be speaking to you on Monday, or am I going to be speaking to Kristian?
Looking at the session, historical data, and using my own in-brain algorithm, you're going to be talking to Kristian.
Okay. Well, we'll get into a bit more of that, but obviously we are a handful of days out of Frankfurt. We are, 6 days from Frankfurt? You boys are both in Bergen by the looks of things. When do we travel?
Thursday morning, 6 a.m. is the flight leaving. We have a few appearance things. We're going to Eurobike with Giant. Been there once before in 22. Yeah. So it's a cool thing. So yeah, huge event. Not only the Ironman, but yeah, Eurobike. So yeah, it's gonna be good.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a bit more. How's training been? So last we spoke, things are going pretty well. We're all floating. We had some good plans, but how have things been going?
I think it's been good since Aix-en-Provence. So it's been trying to find the balance between getting enough specificity towards armor distance, but also to build up a little bit of the speed and the power. So both the last few weekends we've had similar blocks as we did going into Texas. And one thing is for sure, it's way easier to keep the power and the pace up when you're running at home in 17 degrees and the clouds and rain rather than doing it in the humidity and 30 degrees in Texas. But muscle wise and the training, I would say, has been good. Like we've had some days where I think all three of us has just been smashed, but that's like a good sign if you have done a great session or a great day the day before, 2 days before, that you actually feel fatigued from the training and not just from not performing. So I think yesterday was a good one for all three of us. Finishing off the last, so we did 3 by 9K on the run, 3 by 9K on the run, and starting off at like 3:34 pace and then going down to 3:27 and then 3:17 for the last one. So for the last 9K, and Gustav was just running like maybe 3 or 4 seconds slower per K, but so that's also I would say the closest he has been in a while.
I was going to ask about this because I saw your Strava upload, Gustav, and you said, gotta love a super optimistic race pace run. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, the first one, 3:35, I think, 3:34 in the first 9K. That is optimistic race pace for me, I would say, at this moment. But as Kristian mentioned, it's so much easier to do it here than doing it before Texas. 2-part, more fit, of course, but also the climate is better for runners. It's going to be warm in Frankfurt, so might struggle on race day, but yeah, it feels very, very easy. And then we kept on running faster, and I slowed down a little bit, not because I felt like I was running like hard, but just because in my head this was supposed to be like a race pace session, not race intensity. And with race pace, you want to aim at what you're actually going to run on race day. But if you see me running 3:20 on Sunday, I will be very surprised by my own ability, or I've just been cycling extremely slow. But it was fun. It was a good one. And today I don't feel particularly bad in the muscles. I don't feel anything in my Achilles, and slightly like stiff hip region, but nothing bad. So for running 30K kind of race pace on a hard surface, it's good science.
That is good science. Let's talk a bit. I mean, people want an update, no doubt, on the Achilles. How's things going? How's the run volume? Those sort of things.
Yeah, I had 89, 92, 94, 98K the last 4 weeks with run volume. So pretty consistent, slight increase. This week, I guess, will be 80 something, quite slow, or maybe 90, because it's 42 on Sunday. So maybe it's going to be 100 this week. But then next week again is going to be quite low volume. So I had a few days after X and around there, some pain, but that was in the other side. But Achilles is actually going pretty well, I would say. But I'm running not much in carbon shoes. The whole session yesterday was in the strike. So yeah, full carbon plate and quite soft. But mostly I've been running in either like stiffer rubber or non-carbon shoes. So I think that's very good for me.
Yeah. And so, do you still see yourself as building back volume, or do you think you're close to max volume now when it comes to run stuff?
I think I will build a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay.
So especially, or if you can do like high 90s with no issues, I think that's good. But I think some weeks you need 100 plus if you're doing like Ironman prep. So this will probably be the longest week in a few weeks, and then build up again.
As well, now we've only done like one proper sort of track session or like intensive session, and never done one long run. So I guess as well you want to move towards doing 2 proper track session, or maybe even 3. So the volume can stay the same, but you want to lift up the amount of Ks that you're running at a higher pace.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. You talked about doing some specificity and, sort of in this block just now. Previously, when we chatted, you sort of talked about doing a bit more threshold through this block and then getting more specific going into the world champs. So, did that change the plan, or and if so, what changed it, or is that just what you'd always planned?
Yeah, after X, we did a little bit of like the normal training we have done the last half year with more threshold and those kind of things. And as we mentioned earlier in the season, I think we have gone away a little bit from having these massive days and then having a lot of rest to kind of catch up again. But I think 2 weekends going into Frankfurt is not like, it's not a huge amount of race prep or specificity, but it's 2 weekends, and we still had the threshold on Thursday on the run. So I mean, yeah, of course we have a little bit of specificity, but mostly we have been kind of having the intensity up.
Okay.
Yeah, and I felt I didn't really push it in the duration neither of the weekends. So especially on the run, it felt that was maybe 5 to 10 beats below what I would have done normally when I'm like trying to push the session. So yeah, running it really within myself.
Yeah, cool. And so you guys made the choice not to go to altitude, not to go to Font. You wanted to come back to Bergen. How do you reflect on that now? Like thinking back on your choice now, how do you feel about it?
I think the only downside by being home now is that it's warmer in Frankfurt than last year, at least. Like we were sort of aware that it could be warm in that race, especially with the river next to the run course, and it can feel quite humid. So, but we have done some heat sessions indoors as well, doing it on the turbo, and also some wetsuit swims in the pool to just get up the core sensor, no, the core temperature, and get enough time in the core zones, no, heat zones. So we've tried to compensate for that, but yeah, I think that's the only downside by being home in Bergen.
Okay. And I see you guys have been using a lot of what's been happening, like what's around Bergen. I noticed this quite a bit. You guys are out trail running, you're open water swimming. Is that a choice you make because it it's available, or is that a specific choice you're making, for specific reasons?
No, I think it's just nice when you have like things around you, then you kind of want to use it. If you're in Hawaii, you want to swim outside more because it's really, really nice. But you're not using like a climate room in Hawaii to run faster, because I feel like that's a pretty like counterintuitive. So yeah, we've been trying to use what you have just because it's kind of there. But also we are aware that Bergen has not the warmest temperature, so then we have to make that artificial warm.
But I would have enjoyed to do more open water swims, but we were lucky with the weather for some weeks. So the water up or outside of Gustav's house were like 20 degrees Celsius for like a week. So then we jumped in and had like a swim. But now I guess it's been dropping quite quickly with all the rain.
Yeah, okay, that makes some sense. Then I get that. And so we talked about broadly on training. Any let's go into some specifics. We talked a little bit about key run sessions already. Let's talk about some key swims and key bikes then.
I think especially on the swim is where we've done even more like higher intensity. So we done a pure VT max session on Saturdays, building up from 200s. I think we did like 8 by 200s like 4 weeks ago, building up to 10 by 200s with plenty of rest, starting on 5 minutes. So and also starting from the block, so quite intensive, and then on to 5 by 400s, and then down again to 2 by 15 times 100. So building up both trying to get that VO2 max pace in the water, and then we've done a threshold set on Thursday/Wednesdays, because we also moved that one a little bit later on for last week because we were all tired from last weekends of training.
Yeah, okay. And bike sessions, what have we been doing? You mentioned already some heat stuff, but what have we been doing on the bikes?
We have done the specific sessions for on the Sundays, like long steady rides, and then we've done threshold like 60 no 70 80 minutes of work on the Tuesdays. Yeah, and then we've done one of them inside. So the previous ones we did inside, and then yeah, that was like a horrific one because then you're used to having way higher power on the session as you're doing outside on the road, and then you're bringing it in, turning off the fan, and getting that heat stress as well, and just cooking yourself for 2.5 3 hours.
Ugh, yeah, it's not pleasant. And do you guys do that together in the same room, or do you do it in separate places in your own pain caves?
Me and Casper did it in a garage, but Kristian, he is too fond of his own view, so he stays at home. And also, neither of us have a car, so it's kind of stressful to get around. And you ride with your turbo in the back to get here.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
This is maybe a plug if there is a car brand out there.
Yeah. Well, we'll put it to Adam. We'll let him know that you're looking. So what do you use to get around, KB? Because I know you've got a bike, your bike, Gustav. But what do you use to get around, KB?
I have 2 legs I'm walking around with, and I also have an e-bike that gets me up and down the hill. And then I also got like one of these scooters, like the ride or what it's called. But the only thing is the one I have is the engine on it is so weak. And the brakes isn't really good, so like in the steepest downhill, I have to walk with it down because of the brakes doesn't really work that well. And on the most of the uphills, I have to walk with it up as well because the engine doesn't. Yeah, or maybe I'm too large for it at the moment, so it doesn't get me up. So I have to take like the long way up to get like back home.
That's funny. I do remember that e-bike. I do remember that e-bike now when we were recording in Bergen. You turned up on the e-bike. I remember that now. Yeah, okay. Alrighty, well, that all sounds like it's been going really well. So let's talk a couple of things. We talked about your running already, but I want to touch on bike positions. Anything changed for you boys? Anything we should keep an eye on?
I changed my setup slightly again, but this time I didn't really change my own position, just the extensions. So I've been running the old drag to zero extensions, but now I'm going back to the the higher stack. Not a particular reason, really. Just I felt for changing something. And yeah, it's been going well. I feel like my position is very good. So I'm just annoyed that Aix-en-Provence went so terrible on the bike. And I pushed some good numbers. So that was just like a surprise and kind of like a hit in the face. And a confidence breaker a little bit. But yeah, I haven't really changed too much. I'm pretty happy with where I am.
In X as well, he pushed the all-time 2 hours power, didn't you? And still lost.
Yeah, and still lost quite a lot of time. So of course the dynamic has a little bit to say there. If you're in the group and have some motorbikes around you, then of course you're going to save a little bit. But the power difference was so big that I almost felt like something was wrong with the bike, even though I've checked the bike and everything looks to be fine. So it might just be something else. I don't know.
And it wasn't the power meter. I mean, that's
But
the
the power meter has been calibrated, and I know it's some difference within the power meters. And I got a brand new bike before the race, so it might be like some percentages off, but it's still like, for me it was such a big difference, and I have a really good feel of how a bike should behave when I'm pushing certain numbers. Of course, it's not always easy in a race to really get the same feeling because of so many different emotions. But I have a good feeling of a bike, and it just felt like everything was slow that day for no reason. So
yeah.
a bit upsetting, but that's triathlon.
Yeah, and I guess so. How do you come back from that? I'm sure people are interested in this. I'm sure listeners have had bad races, that sort of stuff. Like, I mean, part of it, I'm sure, having spoken to all of you before, you're really happy to see each other succeed, and you're happy that you know that the training's working, right? That's one aspect of it. Then the other aspect is, and you have a positive environment, right? You come back and everybody's flying, which is great. It's nothing worse than when three of you are going badly and everyone's in a bad mood. So I'm sure there's a component of coming back and going like, okay, well, this is a good environment and the training works. It's just a bad day for me. But how do you bounce back from that? It must be quite difficult for you.
Yeah, but the thing is that, okay, the swim was not good, and the run was, I would say, deserved from where my training was, like 3 minutes behind Kristian. It's I mean, that's how training has been going, really. It's like within that region. So I wouldn't say the run was bad. The swim was kind of a little bit bad. So the thing is, like, the bike power was very good, but I just lost a lot of time. So in one way, I'm disappointed, but also, like, my own performance, I felt like it was good. It's just like the result was really bad. So you're kind of sitting with a feeling that, of course you're disappointed because, you're finishing outside of top 20. But then again, like, I felt like my performance wasn't that bad. So it's hard emotionally to really digest how I should feel.
The Norwegian method.
Morton's hydrogel technology encapsulates carbohydrates, making their gels and drink mix easy to consume and easy on the stomach. With no added colors, flavors, or preservatives, you get exactly what you need and nothing you don't. It's the fuel we rely on both trading and to execute on the race day. To get 20% off your next purchase on morton.com, simply enter the code TNMS2 at checkout. The code is applicable once per customer on all products except the Morton Bike Hub system. Valid until December 31st, 2025.
The Norwegian method.
Yeah, well, process-wise, okay, you can say the swim was bad, but from a process standpoint, you ran 3 minutes off KB, but you also rode a 2-hour power record, right? So in some ways, process-wise, it was really good once you're out of the water. So, I guess, what does that mean for you going into Frankfurt? Does that mean any tactical changes for the swim?
No, I think, like, you just have to swim hard. It's not much tactic you can do, really. And for me, Frankfurt, like, looking at the start list, it's so deep, and I feel like it's not going to be like one train. It's going to be a lot of different groups, most likely. and yeah, it's going to come down to the run there, I think. So to be a little bit passive on a bike and try to just stay within a group and yeah, and then see how things unfold. It's going to be good. It's been some time since I was a race favorite, and being a race favorite, you have to race differently. Like Kristian, kind of have to defend a little bit more because he won there before, and yeah, you're not leading the Pro Series now, I think, but you're kind of up there. So if Magnus do something on a bike, he has to either really trust his run or defend. For me, I'm finished outside of top 20 in the last race in Texas. I was also a bit quite far behind, so I don't feel like I have any race favorite on target on my back. So I don't have to race for the win. I just have to kind of race for a good performance, which is easier and should be a good position for me. It's worse for Kristian.
Yeah. Okay. KB, let's talk about it. What are you thinking?
Should we also go back to the bike position if I've changed something?
Yeah, for sure. If you've changed something, then yeah.
Now it's race week, so then it's time to swap again, isn't it? So I've been racing on one setup since Aix-en-Provence, but I think I will move back again to the setup I had in Texas. So I will spend the evening today to swap it over, and yeah, because I feel I'm getting able to get like the elbows more narrow and feeling like staying in a better position by moving back to the previous cockpit. So that's something I will do today. And yeah, talking about Frankfurt, it's a pretty stacked field, and also the first time since Hawaii last year, I'm racing against strong riders like Magnus Ditlev and also Rasmus Svenningsson will be there. So there is both a lot of horsepower on the bike, and then you have Patrick there who can also run really well and who smoked us in Hawaii last year. And he had to pull out of Texas. Yeah, a few months ago due to an injury, but he's probably going to be fit again for this one. So yeah, it's like I have to be aware of where Magnus is riding. Like I definitely feel confident to run faster than him. But if he comes by me too early on the bike, if he comes by me, like flies by after 60K or so, then he is having 120K to build up a gap that might be difficult to catch up again. So it depends a bit on where he is coming by. If he's making a move with 40 or 50K to go, it's sort of limited how much of a gap he can create versus how much I can ruin my legs by trying to stay with him. So yeah, I have to pay attention to that as well. But also as well, there is stronger guys coming behind him, like Rasmus, who can produce a lot of power. So yeah, it's an interesting race and it's a cool course. Last year I got it, or I didn't get it for free, but it was a little bit easier to race the distance due to the weather because it was pouring down for most part of the bike course, so it's easier to stay cool and sort of enjoy the weather a little bit more, and also the run wasn't too warm, so uh, yeah, it's a completely different mindset to go into this race this time around because I really didn't believe I would be in the mix to race for the win in
What do we got there?
it's the
What-
weather for Frankfurt. It's 33 degrees at the warmest middle of the day in
Yeah.
Frankfurt. Gustav is showing now on the phone. So it's yeah, those kinds of temperatures is something Patrick definitely enjoys. But yeah, like last year, I didn't really think I would be in the mix because I came basically straight from Olympic distance training and turning up without any preparation. So this time around, yeah, racing or going into the race as maybe the favorite, and also have to race it from there.
Yeah. And so last year in Kona, like we all know what happened, right? You and Magnus were sort of blowing each other apart, and Patrick came through pretty, sort of jogged through or ran through the field. He didn't jog through the field, but came through pretty strong. So, what is that like? Does that change anything for you this year? Are you going to be keeping an eye on where Patrick is? Are you going to try and save your legs a little bit? What does it mean for Magnus? Like you already talked about where he comes up to you and what that means, but anything else to consider there?
Not really. I think if Magnus comes by again at the same point as he did in Kona, I will try to go with him. And I think I was just not in the bike shape I should have been in Kona last year, and as well, it didn't help that I was puking up
I was going to
everything.
say, yeah, you'll keep that down this time.
Yeah. So I think I've sorted that issue out. So yeah, avoiding puking up 15 times on the bike after 80K or so. And if I could change something from the Kona race, where maybe that when that happened, I should have sort of changed tactics straight away and just try to stay with Patrick for the rest of the bike ride. While what I did in Kona were that I was sort of staying in that pack for maybe 40K, and then for the last 50 or 60K, I was then getting back into. I was trying to take more responsibility, trying to make sure the gap didn't open up too much, and I was maybe burning myself too much on the way back home on Queen K. So I should have just went completely, like when I first changed tactic, I should have changed it completely and trusted it.
Gotcha. Yeah. And we talked about heat already. We talked about 30 degrees. It looked like it was 30 degrees and cloudy, but earlier in the day it was going to be quite hot and also warm but sunny. So I guess from a tactical perspective, you already talked about Patrick sort of does well in that. Obviously, we saw already. Historically, Magnus has struggled a little bit in the heat. Is that something you think about, or do you have to just assume he solved that problem?
I think he's getting it well, and like he did finish second in Kona last year, so even though he maybe looked like he was cooked in T2, he was still able to get around, and he's also raced well in Roth many times. So I think he can do well in warm races.
Yeah. Okay. Right, Gustav, you've been very good at this. How do you think the race is going to pan out? You already talked about on the bike. You thought there's going to be multiple groups, not sort of one train at the front. What else do you think? What are you going to see in the race? Like, what other predictions do you have for race day that we can watch out for?
Yeah, I think quite spread out, I would say. Like multiple groups. It's also depending a little bit on, of course, the tactic of other people. And if Rasmus is kind of smart and pushing hard through the groups, he was most likely just blast past. But if someone kind of catch up, maybe that will be like a factor that kind of narrows everything together if people are willing and able to keep up with him. Also, if the motorbikes are there, I guess it's a little bit easier. But yeah, as I mentioned, I think the run is the most important part in this race. It's quite a flat and fast bike course. So if you're riding slow, yes, then you're riding like 10 minutes slower. But 10 minutes in a marathon, it's still not insane amount of time here. So a low 2:30, it's podium if you are still quite far behind. I think you need a low 2:30 at the front if you're going to win it, but you might be podium like 2:30 from second group or far behind.
Gotcha.
For my own part, I would say, yeah, like a 2:40, low 2:40, maybe even high 2:30. I think it's possible. That would land me maybe sixth position, somewhere around there. I think it's quite realistic. Just need to be smarter and race a little bit more wise than I did in Texas.
And no punctures.
And no punctures. I have new tires now, so it should all be cleared out. As I mentioned, also be kind of passive on the bike, riding the 62 tooth chain. So I'm ready for a high pace. But yeah, that's for me. I think Kristian should be able to, run at low 2:30 and take the win. Casper, somewhere in between, did very well in Texas, but he's much more fit now. And he has even dialed his position better, same as he had in Aix-en-Provence, and there he had a good bike leg. So maybe Casper will finish, I think, third, fourth, depends a little bit, of course, but I say him third.
So what I'm taking from that is we're a couple punctures away from seeing an all Norwegian podium. That's what I'm taking away from that.
We're getting closer. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would say Gustav is pretty spot on. And then either Magnus or Patrick squeezed in between on the podium, I guess.
And I assume the other one you think is going to then run fourth.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And also one thing is that is different here compared to in Texas for Casper's. The way he's going to race is probably that he needed to qualify for Nice in Texas. Like you want to make sure that you're racing a little bit more conservative and just getting that slot. Well, now he's having the slot and he can basically race without seatbelt and just go for it. So that could lead to either a greater performance, fighting for the win and the podium, or it can be risking the walking part by the end of the run.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, well, I mean, Gustav, I want to tug on that thread a little bit. You talked about 230, high 230s. Your pace yesterday for that 30K, your average pace was 238 pace. So
No, but that's the average on the complete run.
yeah, I understand that. That's what I'm saying, though. So that was with ons and offs, right?
Yeah.
And you still manage that, right? Yes, you have 12Ks left, of course, and you have other stuff to do before. But to me, that says you're probably going to run like more like mid 230s than high 230s.
Yeah, but that was a standalone run with just like a bike as a warm up in cold conditions. And yeah, having 5 minute break every half an hour, it's still like a big change. So yeah, being quite realistic, I think high 230s. Like even if you do like a threshold at 12K race pace, then like you have 1 minute break every 3 minutes, so it's so much easier.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. And so you sort of already talked about, I mean, your goal, KB, you don't turn up unless you want to win. What about you, Gustav? You talked about sixth. Is that the goal or is that a great day? What are the thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have a goal if you're not winning. I mean, like, yeah, top six is it's a good performance, but it's not like you're going into a race with a goal of top six. It's kind of winning is basically everything for us. I would say like I'm quite happy with our six, but it's not like I have like a dream of coming top six in Frankfurt. But like a podium would be a goal, but I would say that's also like from sixth to third. It doesn't sound like a big difference in performance, but in Ironman it could be quite a big difference, and I would be surprised if I go on a podium. So yeah, let's just say that then the podium is my goal, but I don't think I will be able to. But still, yeah, goal.
The Norwegian method.
We have been using Plasmade for the last 18 months, and what I love the most is how it helped me get ready for the hardest sessions. A hard session is tough in itself, but with Plasmade it just gives me that little bit extra that helps me perform every single time. We use Plasmade approximately 40 minutes before training and sometimes before flights. After using Plasmade, I feel like the oxygen is just more available in my muscles. I felt like every single breath is utilized more. Alongside their orange, strawberry and watermelon flavors, Plasmade have launched a new delicious pineapple citrus flavor. Visit plasmade.co.uk and use the code NM15 for 15% off your order.
The Norwegian method.
You make a good point there, which is the difference between sixth and third is significant. Having said that, from what I've heard from you both today, you sound like there's going to be a bit of a couple of groups, but they're all going to sort of coalesce. It's going to come down to the run. There is a chance that it's only a handful of minutes, which is enormous amount of time, right, at that elite level. But nonetheless, I've got a feeling the top 10 will be pretty close. Like, I don't think we're going to be waiting for a half hour or something like that. What do you two think?
No, it's going to be 10 minutes or 15 minutes maybe between top 10, I guess.
Yeah, okay. So that was my gut feeling on it as
Or
well.
maybe not 10 minutes, a little bit more. It was 5 or 8 minutes down to second in Texas, so maybe 20 minutes between top 10.
I think it's going to be closer.
Yeah, well, what are you trying to tell us there, KV? You're trying to tell us that you're going to run even quicker? Is that the take home?
Depends how the run legs feels by the back end of the marathon.
I think it's going to be closer than in Texas.
Okay. I like the contrasting opinions. That's what we're here to hear. You talked about bike legs. Excuse my ignorance here. Ironically, Frankfurt is the only Ironman I've ever been to, and I was there sort of watching. But I don't know anything about the bike course. You talked about it being flat, Gustav, but we've talked on previous episodes about difficulties getting splits from people. Is there much ability to get splits on the Frankfurt bike course, or not really?
Not really. Like it's a 2 lap course. So you're riding from the lake down to downtown, and you're doing 2 laps from there. And it has some sort of hills in it, like where you have to go close to threshold for a few minutes, and then up and down, a bit of rolling. But overall, I think we were riding at like 4 hours or something last year, but it was like 5K short. It has a little bit of technical sections with some cobblestones in it. So there, the group might be splitting up. So that was at the point I think where Kristian and Hugenhaug were breaking away last year, was through the cobblestone section, and then there is some twisty turns, and if it's getting wet as well, it's a lot of corners where you can crash. So you have to sort of be aware, because you're also going through some small towns and over some like slippery parts. So it's flat, yes, but it's also, you have to stay, like be aware of way of riding.
Yeah, and it'll create some accordion effects in the sort of front group as well. So that'll be interesting to see. Drafting penalties are always a chance, etc., etc., etc. So
And again, with the second lap on the bike course, when you have all the age groupers on your right side and you're flying by on the left side, it's a little bit more tricky to keep control over where you are, like in the pro field, a little bit like I struggled with in Texas, when suddenly Gustav went away with Robert Kalin and those guys up front, and suddenly I had to chase them down because I sort of lost count and I didn't see where the gap was opening up. So that can also be like an issue here, especially with when it comes to like technical sections and you have edge groupers passing edge groupers, and then you have the pros trying to get around. And just trying to play safe. But as well, I think when you're having the train of age groupers next to you, it's, I guess the aerodynamic is a little bit less important on lap 2 versus lap 1. So that can also change it a little bit, simply because you have like the you're getting sort of a little bit lifted around.
that's awesome. People will be happy to hear they're helping you around the course. Anyone who's listening to this.
It also gives a lot of energy when they're cheering on, screaming the name. Then it's like helping me with like 5 to 7 watts.
I love to hear that. You're going to have a lot of people cheering for you, I'm sure. You've mentioned a couple names already, one of which I'd never heard before on the bike. Is there anyone else we should be, that you look at and go, this person's either going to impact the race or we should be keeping an eye on? We know the big names, the Patricks and the Magnus, etc. But is there anybody else that you think, oh, that guy's been training well, or he could be a bit of a wild card, or maybe he pushes it on the bike or something like this?
It's one guy we never tend to mention before the race, but he tends to end up on the podium, and that's Rudy von Berg. So typically he doesn't do like a lot of damage on the course itself. Like he's sort of, I wouldn't say neutral in the race, but he plays within himself, but he still tends to end up up there and on the podium in races like this.
Well, that's a really good shout, as I think a lot of people are overlooking Rudy. Obviously, traveling away from the States to Europe, and so it'll be interesting to see how he goes. It's a really astute pick. Anything we should watch for? Anything else that you think we may not know as fans or as casual observers that you think, oh, watch for this, you'll see this happen, or something like that? We've already talked about idiosyncratic things with the course where it's from the lake down 2 laps, age groupers on the second lap. What about the run or the swim or anything like this?
If we look slow on the 4th lap, because the age groupers are running next to us in the same pace, that's because they're increasing the pace. It's not we are slowing down. That's maybe to be aware of as well.
Also, they're on their first lap. So,
yes, they're fresh and they're putting in a surge.
That's maybe the worst thing about Kona. When you're almost at the finish line and some age groupers are coming out from transition, and I only had a feeling one time there, and I had a good feeling, But even then, like the age groupers are running so fast the first 1K, so you feel like almost annoyed that like, why are you trying to keep up with me? But it's good energy, but sometimes you're just like too tired to care also.
You don't. None of them say jump in. I'll pace you for a bit or anything like this.
No.
Oh, that's it's very rude of them. They got to do some more work for you up front.
Also in Frankfurt, like the run course is mostly flat, but they have like these sort of short hills where you're going up on the bridge and then down again from the bridge. So it has some small parts where you're sort of mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure that's actually probably welcome, given consistent flat straight. Like it's quite hard muscularly, and a little bit of a change up of a little bit of an uphill and a downhill is like a little bit nice to break things up a little bit.
I prefer complete flat, but that's just me.
I think it's nice. Like and it's also 4 laps of 10K or so. So it's a very nice way to mentally get through it. Like you have the first lap, and then you the second one, and then you're halfway, and then the third part, and then you have the struggle in the end.
Yeah, and you can't see from memory. You're running around like loops around the sort of downtown area, so you can't really see people too much if you can't see them. Like it's not like any hairpins or anything like that, is there?
There is. So you
Oh,
can
there
see
is.
them at the viewpoints. So
Okay.
obviously depends on how what the gap is, but you can see sort of 3-4 minutes back at some parts. Yeah, at least at 2 or 3 section or part of the course. So it is actually a nice way to get control over where your competitors are on the run course, and also you have the crowds who can give you time splits.
Yeah, but you never really trust them. Unless they're yelling in Norwegian at you, you wouldn't trust them.
But you put them together, and then you have someone you trust.
Okay. Yeah. The composite, the average. No, I love that. All right, anything else we should watch out for? Anything else we should know, guys, before we send you off, and then we'll chat to you again in about a week's time.
No, just want to give a shout out to Solveig for her race in Hamburg. That was pretty insane of a debut, even with some bike problems and managing to stay cool and fix it, and being smart. And she was a bit too eager some parts of the bike, but making it almost a perfect race for her. That was very impressive. And also like Laura running that. What did she run? You remember?
38,
Yeah.
238, I think.
Like that's my ambition this week. That was an insane performance all across. So shout out to those.
That was crazy. It was her fastest ever debut. So it's she would have won. She would have won a lot of races doing a time like that, or even racing like that. Just happened to be that it was the fastest race ever.
I think she went under the Norwegian record before we started doing Ironman with like 8:12 or something. Wasn't it like 8:20 or something before we started?
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
she's like the 5th or 6th, I think, fastest Norwegian.
That's very impressive.
And also now we have 5 Norwegian pros qualified for Nice. That's also pretty cool.
I was actually looking at the start list for Frankfurt, and if you have a look at it, it was like 3 Norwegians, 3 Germans, and like 2 Danes in like the top 10 or 15. It was crazy. I was like, this is really like it was a really interesting. I mean, of course, the geography of where it is impacts that significantly, but nonetheless, it was pretty impressive. Nonetheless, to think about that.
So you will see, like in Nice, like I would say high numbers of Norwegian or Scandinavians in there with the Swedes and Danish as well.
Yeah. Well, that's been great, boys. I love the insights ahead of time. Helps me know what to look for. Helps me to keep some context and get some insight into what you'll be thinking about on the bike and on the run. But best of luck. Safe travels. Hoping all of the luck goes your way with respect to flats and bikes getting there in one piece and all that. And we will chat.
Eurobike. So if it's a bike problem, then we should be able to figure it out.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hear that. But we do appreciate your time, gents. Thank you. Happy travels, happy training. We'll talk to at least one of you, if not both of you, in a week's time. And thanks to all those who have listened in today. Please do subscribe to the podcast so you get our review of Frankfurt. And rate the podcast if you haven't, and share it with somebody so they can know what to look for on the weekend. Thanks, gents.
Thank you.
The Norwegian
method.